Good morning, guys. In today's video, we're going to be setting the valve lash in my 24 valve Cummins. If you're new to the channel, this is my 2001 Cummins, and we just refreshed the engine in it. We installed a Hamilton 178/208 camshaft, their tappets, and full valve train. We properly broke the camshaft in per the instructions. We ran the valves again after the break-in period, and we've been putting some miles on her just to wear in the camshaft a little more. And now I just want to double check the valve lash before we go out and rip on this thing. You may be watching this video because you're having some issues with your truck. You could have some noisy valve train or a rough idle, maybe a misfire. All of those are symptoms of valve lash being out of spec. Cummins suggests to do this every 150,000 miles for light duty trucks, but I recommend doing it like every 100,000 because it's a pretty easy job to do. It just makes the engine run smoother. It's better for it. It's one of those things where you don't want to skip out on maintenance. So if you haven't ran your valves in a while, use this as a reason to go out and do it. But the process for doing this is pretty much the same for all 24 valve Cummins from 98.5 to 2018. In 2019, they switched the hydraulic lifter, so this is not applied to you guys. The valve lash is all compensated through the hydraulic lifter. But for us flat tappet guys who have the more reliable engine, this is how you set the valve lash. The tools you'll need will kind of depend on what year your truck is, but for the 98.5 to 02, these are the tools that you'll need. Most of these should carry over, but you'll probably need more for newer trucks. But you'll need a 1/2-inch ratchet, a 3/8. You don't need a zip zap, but I'm gonna use one. You'll want a mirror and then a 9/16 box-in wrench, some Allens. Then you'll need a couple sockets, a 10 mil for the valve cover, and then you can use a 15/16 on the alternator to bar the engine over. But in my case, I have a fluid dampener, so I'll be using a 16 mil on the full power kit to bar the engine over. Moral of the story, you need a way to bar the engine over. Some people use the alternator and some people use the harmonic balancer bolts. Both will do just fine. Just be careful on the balancer bolts. You definitely do not want to strip or break one of them. You'll probably want some lights and some gloves, but most importantly, you'll need some feeler gauges. We'll only be using 2 of them. If I could pick them up. You'll need the 20 and the 10. The 20 is for the exhaust rockers and the 10 is for the intake rockers. But just do yourself a favor and take them off the rack. You don't want to be messing with that whole rack of gauges. Just pull them off the rack and you can put them back when you're done. This will make it a lot easier. So that's pretty much all the tools you'll need to do this job. But let's pop the hood and throw some lights under it because our corner is still dark. We have not expanded our hex lights yet. And it gets pretty dark over here when the hood's popped. If you are new to the channel, you should check out some of my other videos. This truck is a full manual valve body, still a VP44 with a S400. And like I said, we just refreshed the engine in it because we popped a head gasket. But let's get some light going in here. That's a lot better. Before you get started, make sure you do this on a cold engine. You do not want to do this when the engine's warm. So I'd recommend letting it sit overnight and make sure it's fully cooled off. So step 1, we need to pull the valve cover. Mine will be a little different than your guys because I have my breather hoses right here. I need to take those off. But the way to do this, you want to take all the bolts off. If you use an electric ratchet, do not use that on the back bolt. You will get the ratchet stuck. Don't ask me how I know that. But once you get all the bolts out, the last one will not come out. It stays in the valve cover. But you just want to pull it up with the valve cover, and then you're going to pick the valve cover up and rotate it this way. You're going to have to hop it over your heater core hoses, which these are AN lines. Yours will be rubber, a little different. But basically, you're going to twist it over those and then pull it kind of this way and out. It's pretty straightforward. You just got to be careful with it and take your time. But let me just show you how to get it out. Okay, with those out of the way, we can start on our valve cover bolts. I just like to break them free first before I just zip them out with the impact. You can use your electric ratchet on that back bolt. You just gotta stop early and then twist it out by hand because you will get the ratchet stuck. And now you want to pull your valve cover bolts out. Be careful not to tear the rubber boot on them or lose them. And with the front 4 bolts out, you're ready to remove the valve cover. You just pick up on it and kind of twist this way. And you'll kind of feel that back bolt release. You want to push it kind of that way to help it guide it out of its home. Just like that. And now you have a good view of your valve train, which is where we will be working. These are the adjuster nuts, and that's how you set your valve lash. If you don't know, the lash is the play between the valve bridge and the rocker itself, which is right here. If you see, this one has a little bit of play in it. That might be too loose, but we'll be checking that over. But it's basically this slop right here, which that is completely normal. That's what you want. This one will take the 20th thou feeler gauge, but we need to get the engine set up in the position it needs to be in before we set the valves. And the position we need to set the engine in is top dead center on cylinder 1. That'll allow us to adjust a certain amount of rockers, but not all of them. Then we'll rotate the engine over to bottom dead center, and then we can finish them out. I'll put a list right here of all the ones you can do at top dead center. But now we need to bar the engine over. Like I said, some people use the alternator and some people use the harmonic balancer. Both will work. Just make sure you're careful and don't damage the balancer bolts. But I installed a fluid dampener with the full power kit, so I can use a 16mm socket on the full power kit and bar the engine over that way, which makes it really nice. So grab your 1/2" ratchet and your socket you need, and let's bar the engine over. And I almost forgot, to know where top dead center is at, we need to look inside of our timing case right here. You can see there's a top dead center mark right there. You'll probably have a different cap on your timing cover. You'll probably have like a cylinder looking thing with a hose running down. That is your factory breather. I replaced that with these hoses right here. You saw me take off the valve cover. So I have that capped off right now, but you want to twist that off. I'll have to get a wrench for that. Okay, with your cover off, this will be kind of hard to see, but you'll take your mirror and you can kind of see there's a timing mark on the pump gear right there. If you see that right there, you want to line that mark up with that little semicircle in the timing cover. So it's pretty straightforward. You want to put that mark straight up where that semicircle is, which will line up with the top dead center mark. I know it's kind of hard to see, but you use a mirror for this. It makes it a lot easier. So let's bar the engine over and get that lined up. All right, see if you guys can see this. Focus. Right there is what you want. You can see that timing mark on the pump gear is lined up with that semicircle and the top dead center mark on the cover. Good shot right there. That's what you're after. And now with the engine set to top dead center, we can begin running our valves. So in this position, we can do intakes 1, 2, and 4, and exhaust 1, 3, and 5. And the intake one is the smaller rocker. The exhaust is the bigger rocker. That one goes right in line with the exhaust manifold, and this one comes from the intake. But you can really tell which ones you can do based on how the rocker looks. For example, this intake on cylinder 3 is actuating the valve. You do not want to touch that one. We'll set that one when we spin the engine over to bottom dead center. And you want some side to side and up and down slop. That is completely normal. That just means the tappet and push rod are on the base circle of the camshaft, which is where you want it set so you can set your valve lash. I fully anticipate all of my valves being in spec or really close. I doubt I'll have to touch any of them, but if I do, I'll show you how to do it. But let's check the valve lash on cylinder 1, and I might just loosen them up just to show you guys how to set it. All right, so we're gonna take our 10th thou feeler gauge and we're going to stick it right between the intake rocker and valve bridge. It might be a little firm to get in there, but once you get in there, you'll know. And so this is all a feel. It's why it's called a feeler gauge. You want just a little bit of resistance, and truthfully, that feels perfect. I kind of don't want to touch it. This one feels exactly where it needs to be. It's pretty much perfect, so I'm going to leave this guy alone. Let's check the exhaust. So we'll take our 20th thou feeler gauge for the exhaust, and we'll stick it right between the rocker and the valve bridge. And this one's actually a little tight, so I'm going to adjust this and show you guys how to do that. This is, see, I can barely move it. It's just a little tight. Some people actually prefer them to be a little tight because these will free up as the engine warms up. But for the sake of the video, I'm gonna show you guys how to adjust it. So you'll take your 9/16 wrench, put it on the adjuster nut, and just break it free. And now you'll take your Allen and you can just back this guy off or tighten it. If you back it off, that will loosen it, and now it's way too loose. And if you tighten it, that'll tighten it, and now it's too tight. So you wanna just adjust this until you get that right feel with the feeler gauge, which is about right there. But now it's the challenging part. It's tightening that nut while keeping this stationary. You wanna put your wrench on it. I like to run it down by hand, make sure it's not moving. And now you'll take your wrench, put it on the nut with the box end, put the Allen inside of it. We're gonna feel it again. It tightened up on me a little bit. So I'm just gonna, it's all a feel thing. You're gonna use the Allen to get the feel you're after. So you wanna do this kind of simultaneously. Don't go too much at once, but that feels about perfect right there. That's where I like it. So I'm gonna really hold this and tighten the nut down. Make sure the Allen does not move. And that's how you do it. That feels exactly where it needs to be. Double check that's tight. And the torque spec on these 18 foot-pounds, but I don't really know how you can torque those without moving the Allen. So I put about 1 or 2 ugga-duggas on it with the box end wrench and call it good there. Never really had an issue with that. For the sake of the video, I'll show you guys how to check them again. So we're gonna stick our 10th thou in the intake, and that feels perfect. That's right where I want it. Now the exhaust, we'll check it again, and that feels pretty much the exact same as the intake. That's right where I like it. So like I said, it's all a feel thing. You want just a little bit of resistance. I recommend just feeling it out. Maybe look up a video on how to feel a feeler gauge, but that's exactly how it's done. It's really straightforward. I'm gonna go ahead and knock out the rest of these. I'll show you some adjustments if I have to make some, but I'll catch up with you guys here in a second. And a little tip for you guys, Cummins actually have a factory tool holder. It's right here. It's known as the radiator. It works perfect for holding tools. And if this gets filled up with tools, you can navigate to the wiper cowl. I just finished checking all the valves at top dead center and they felt great, right where I expected them to be. I did not make any adjustments to them. They felt perfect. But now I need to rotate the engine over to bottom dead center, which is where the mark will be straight down 180 degrees apart from where it is right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that and then run the rest of the valves and I'll let you know what I find. And now we are set to bottom dead center. If you can see that. Focus. There's another semicircle in the bottom of the timing cover, and you just gotta line that timing mark up with it on the pump gear. Probably hard to tell on camera, but that's lined perfectly up with it. And with the engine at bottom dead center, you can do intake 356 and exhaust 246. Cylinder 6 can be a little tricky getting back there. You might have to grab a bucket to stand on or something, but I'm gonna go ahead and check them all and let you know what I find. Just remember the rocker that you're working with should have some side to side and up and down slop. This one doesn't have up and down because the feeler gauge is in it, but it should have some slop. That'll tell you that you're in the right spot. If it's tight, like the intake on 1 is tight now, you are not in the right spot. Do not try to set the valve lash in this position. So just take your time, just do a sandy check, feel the rockers, make sure they're where they need to be. And just like that, we're all finished up. I actually had to adjust a couple of rockers. The exhaust on cylinder 2 was a little tight. And of course, that one is a tough one to adjust because the intake horn is right in the way, but we got it done and set where it needs to be. And then intake on cylinder 3 was also a little tight. I really couldn't get the feeler gauge in there unless I really forced it, and that's just not what you want. So I adjusted those guys and all the rest of them felt great. Thankfully, cylinder 6 checked out good and I did not have to adjust it because that one's not very fun laying across the whole engine bay just to adjust those back rockers. But before you put everything back together, now is a good time just to look everything over, double check that everything's looking good. You have no torn valve seals. If you don't know what a valve seal is, you'll see that blue kind of color right there. Those are the valve seals. Might have been changed, that's why they're blue. Yours will have yellow exhaust ones and green intake ones, I believe. Could be the other way around. You may have different color or style exhaust seals depending on what year your truck is, but double check all of them. Make sure none of them are popped off or torn or anything like that. Double check all your injectors. If you have a VP44 truck, grab your injector, hold down, try and move it around. Make sure it's not loose or anything like that. Check out your push rods. Just look everything over while you have the valve cover off. You might find something alarming. And don't be scared if yours is not this clean. Like I said, I just went through this engine. That's why mine looks pretty clean right now. But if there is a lot of sludge buildup, you definitely want to get that stuff out and probably change your oil and do a little bit better job on taking care of your engine. But at this point, we're ready to install the valve cover gasket back in it. I took it out just to clean it up and check everything over. And then we can throw our valve cover back on and we'll be all finished up. And then this is a reminder to make sure you grab your ratchet that you use to bar the engine over. Whether you use the balancer or the alternator, make sure you grab that before you start the engine. The valve cover gasket is marked right here. It says top front, so make sure that is facing up and towards the front of the engine. And now the fun part, getting the valve cover back in. Do it the same way you took it out, kind of going at an angle. Just take your time, it'll go right in its place. Just like that. Make sure you left the back bolt in it. You will not be able to get that back in there once you get the valve cover set on. That's why you have to go at an angle and kind of navigate that bolt around the rockers. Now we can throw our bolts back in and we'll tighten these down from the center out. I'm just gonna make sure our gasket looks like it's lined up. It's sitting on there right. Get these kind of hand started. I do not remember the torque spec on these. I just know it's important to go from the center out. I usually run them in with my electric ratchet and then put a hand ratchet on there and just kind of get them snug. Just do not over tighten these and strip it out. That would not be a good day. And in my case, I need to put my breather lines back on. If you're getting ideas as far as breather lines, do not use this position. It works, but if I could do it again, I'd probably try and go off the tappet cover with a billet cover or in the center. And that's because in high RPM, some oil off the rockers splatter up in these and it kind of sucks it out the tube. It's just a minor drip, not really a big deal, but if I could do it again, I'd probably change that position. And the last thing for me is my timing cover cap. You will have your factory breather or whatever you have on it. Just like that, folks, we are all back together, and that's how you set the valve lash on a 24 valve Cummins. It's really straightforward. If it's your first time, just go slow, make sure you do it right, and make sure the engine is in the right position and you're working on the right rockers. And as long as everything goes right, it's a pretty straightforward and quick job. This took me about an hour, hour and a half with videoing. So you can really knock this out in an afternoon or after an oil change or something. And now with the valve lash all set and in spec, we're gonna take the truck down the road, make sure it's running right, everything's sounding good. But I think everybody should take it for a test spin after you do the valve lash and make sure you did everything right and the engine's sounding good. But that's gonna do it for this video. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope this video helped you guys out or motivated you to go set the valves in your Cummins. If you wanna see some more content with this truck, I'd really appreciate subscribing to the channel. But that's gonna do it for this video. I'll see you guys in the next one.